Doge, Wildcat, Dozier.
Yeah. Our friend Doge, also known as Wildcat.
Wildcat Dozier sounds like the most backwoods person. Like, you sound like you've got a boat with a fan on the back.
Yeah, that's our son. That's Jess and my secret son.
And every time he comes in, he goes, hey, Dad, Diddy. Is he New Zealand?
No, he calls me
Is he
Diddy.
a Kiwi?
Hey, Diddy.
Hey, Diddy.
Yeah, he's a Kiwi. He lives in the swamps of New Zealand now. His name's Wildcat Dozier. Hey, Diddy. It's me, Wildcat. Hey, Mum and Dad. It's me, Wildcat. Jess and Doge, my parents. It's me, Wildcat.
Sound like Taika Waititi.
Exactly like him. We spent 43 minutes trying to start, and that's the best intro we've done since
Hey,
we sat
Mum and
down.
Dad, it's me, Wildcat. I'm back from the swamp. It's family Christmas, right? Mum and Dad, Diddy, it's me, Wildcat.
We're just gonna do that.
I just drooled.
I think you guys,
It always starts with "Hey, Mom and Dad, it's me, Mom."
Mum and Dad, it's me, Wildcat. Welcome to our podcast. It's me, Wildcat. Wildcat Doge.
Mom and Dad.
Hey, Mum and Diddy. Thanks for listening to our show. It's
Wait,
me.
who's there?
It's me, Wildcat. Welcome to the Wildcat Radio Hour.
Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk, our movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I'm your chunk.
I'm Doge, and this week, if you be worthy, you can possess the power of chunk.
I'm David, and I will bring you victory so succulent you thought you died and went to Valhalla.
Nice. Very nice. Well, this week I feel like it's very important to tell everybody that I'm hungry.
What are you hungry for?
Just food, man. I thought we could mix it up and try and start the show out with some like casual conversation.
Yeah, I was like, is this a bit?
Just
Is he
about
gonna-
I feel like
Is there a Thor pun coming?
I feel like there's a lot of people that really just want to like see inside our lives.
tell
and,
me
like,
that you're
what we're
hungry
about.
again.
Okay, I'm hungry.
What are you hungry, Thor?
Nice.
That's what I was
This
waiting
week,
for.
nice. I could go for some popcorn.
Pulling back the curtains. That's what Jordan's like.
Just like, hey.
Welcome to VH1 Behind the Podcast.
But as we all know, we're here to talk about a movie and not my hunger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I could honestly go for some ribs or. But the movie that we're here to talk about is none other than 2011's Thor. Only
Also,
one
no
word.
subtitle.
Yeah, I know. Here we are.
Whoa.
Sometimes you just got to play the cards you're dealt.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to go and say that, Thor?
Guys, we're terribly Thory for all the awful puns.
If you guys need a Band-Aid, you can go pick it up at the Thor.
The medicine Thor.
Well, Doge, could I oblige you for a snap?
You could indeed. 2011, almost 2001.
No.
2011
2011,
Thor
a space Thor to see.
is the story of a young Asgardian god, I guess, a young Asgardian being called Thor.
Yep.
Who is next in line to be king of Asgard. And over the course of this movie, he is deemed unworthy of the right to wield Mjolnir, his hammer, and thus loses his power. He is exiled on Earth, and this movie is the story of Thor regaining his worthiness to wield his hammer. So, David, we're going to switch it up a little bit. Why don't we let you be our tour guide through this spectacular tornado of a movie.
All right, we'll keep all hands and feet inside the podcast at all times. We're going to take this journey starting at the very beginning. It's really a story of humility. If you think about it.
It might be a story of humility.
Ah, interesting. Please don't talk while I'm talking in the podcast.
I'm low-key interested in this one.
Oh!
Guys.
Welcome to our puncast.
You did it, Odin.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, we start off this movie with a flashback that I want to dump on.
Yeah.
Why does it start on a flashback?
Why do we not start when the story starts?
Because it starts with Jane looking at a tornado of some sorts that she's chasing, hits a guy and says, "Oh my gosh, please don't be dead."
Yep.
And then Anthony Hopkins starts with his narration.
There was a time
There was a time where it was.
I looked it up, by the way.
Yeah.
Have the Asgardians stopped crying? We flash back. This is 956 AD that we flash back to.
Yeah.
That is over 1,000 years that we flash back.
Genuinely thought you were going to say this is 956 minutes long, the flashback, and I was going to say, yep, because all I could think the whole time is I would be so much more interested if it just started with lands on Earth and we have to find everything out when everybody else finds everything out.
I think that is a scenario that should have happened, or we should have started at 900. And if we regard that opening sequence with Jane and Darcy and Eric as a flashback, then we should start at that point. If we regard it as a flash forward, then we should cut it completely and start with Odin's voiceover.
Yeah,
that's the perfect start.
I think
to
it
that movie.
should have started. All these Thor puns are getting to me. It should have started with Anthony Hopkins' voice saying, here's the world that we're setting up.
Sure.
Because I think this was the tallest order for the MCU until Guardians of the Galaxy. This was the one where everything was very grounded in what we already know. Like, obviously I don't know if radiation could cause the Hulk, but maybe in this world, and that's what he would do. But this is like, we're opening up this world to 9 different realms.
Yeah.
Like that's a tall order. So they really
explanation.
So they needed to start with
They try to explain it away with the Arthur C. Clarke quote. Arthur C. Clarke is a prolific science fiction writer. They try to explain it away with that quote where Jane says that science is just technology we don't understand yet. Not actually what Arthur C. Clarke said.
It's magic. Right?
Magic is just tech we don't understand yet.
Yeah.
Not actually what Arthur C. Clarke said, and doesn't really seem to hold up because we don't need that. Like, we can just say, hey, it's just magic. Like, it's just the way this is. And like, we have enough shield in here to anchor us back into the more realistic Iron Man. Like,
well, and there's the same thing, I think, where it's almost a little more hand holding than an audience probably needs to be able to go, no, I get that, like, in this kind of situation, magic has an explanation that we just don't know. Like, I think people are able to grasp that.
Yeah. Well, I like Thor's line where he says, your ancestors called it magic. You call it science. I come from a place where they're one and the same.
Right. Yeah. We could have just used that instead of Jane's quote.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, it feels a little like almost Green Lantern-ish handholdy of like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, this is weird. I'm so sorry. This is weird.
Agree.
That's true.
It felt like it was a little bit apologizing for being a superhero
Audiences
movie.
don't want that. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I go into a movie, I'm all in. I'm fully ready to just set aside and just be like, yeah, I believe you. You're telling me the story. I believe you.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think Marvel does a good job of it later, but I think part of the responsibility of a movie on the audience is to take the reins and say, I'm in control. You sit back and watch. And when it does things like, hey, I know this is weird, just bear with me. It almost feels like it doesn't want me to fully invest. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I think that's true.
It feels like your friend who comes to hang out and is like, hey, before we start hanging out, just like, I promise I'm cool. Like, I promise this is going to be fun. You know what I mean? We're just like, let me figure that out myself. Like, I don't need that, you know?
And it makes everything less cool then.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't do anything.
Faking it right now? Like that kind of thing? Yeah.
But Anthony Hopkins narrates the story of Jotunheim and the Frost Giants trying to take over Earth and how the Asgardians came to protect them.
Yes.
This was lost to history, clearly.
Yeah.
But I want to give just straight out right now a huge pump on Anthony Hopkins.
100%.
Yes.
He can
about to
make
say the same thing.
anything sound and feel incredible. Like, what the heck is up with his voice?
Yeah,
I
amazing.
saw like a Transformers 6 trailer and he was narrating it and I was like, this movie looks great. And I had to tell myself, no, it's just Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
I can't go see this movie.
How did they get the hop
I don't know.
in that particular franchise?
I can't even explain. Well, everybody needs a paycheck every once in a while. You know what I mean?
And again,
Does Anthony Hopkins need a paycheck?
I just told you he was in Transformers, so clearly there's a low bar that he's shooting for, but he can make it incredible.
Well, I think him as even Odin was probably maybe in 2011. I just wasn't quite as in tune with like my actors and like all that kind of stuff. But thinking about it now and just being like, Anthony Hopkins is Odin in Thor.
That's crazy.
In the MCU. That doesn't even... I found myself, even when I saw Ragnarok in theaters, just being like, oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins is part of the MCU.
Yeah, that's true.
That's unbelievable. Hannibal Lecter is Thor's dad.
Yeah. Well, and there's not many people that could could portray such a dominating presence, but such a peaceful king.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like so on board with Odin, and I'm like, don't die. Don't you
No,
die,
100%.
Odin.
Yeah.
We need you.
Every word out of his mouth, I'm just like, Thor, you better listen.
Yeah.
Anthony
knows what's up.
Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins is like, I really feel that aside from Robert Downey Jr., he is and Chris Evans, the best casting in Phase 1.
Really?
Anthony Hopkins is incredible. He's like it's exactly like you said, like so regal and peaceful, but also like when he gets angry at Thor and he's like, "You are not a king,"
But you're not king.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. Callback joke to our Christmas series, really.
Fred Claus. Yikes. Anyway.
So we find out that the frost giants try to defeat or try to conquer Earth and force us into another ice age, which does that mean the first ice age was caused by them? I don't know. Let's think about it.
I honestly didn't even think about that until right now.
Me neither.
Then Asgard stepped in. There was a great war. They pushed them all the way back to Jotunheim, their planet, took away the source of their power. What is that called?
The casket of Eternal Winters.
The Casket of Eternal Winters. Is that said in the movie?
They just call it the Casket in the movie.
Okay.
In comics, it's called the Casket of Eternal Winters, and it's the source of their power. And when it is opened on a world, it can immediately kind of terraform that world into the icy landscape of Jotunheim.
So
Does it have any connection whatsoever to the Tesseract?
I think that it is the same thing.
no.
I think we're supposed to believe that it's, well, maybe not the same thing. I think it's supposed to look similar to us. That's a question that I had after watching this because it literally looks like a box that holds the Tesseract.
That's what I thought it was the whole time until he froze.
But the power of the casket is totally different than anything we see the Tesseract do later.
Well, and so let's talk about this because the Tesseract is one at the end of this movie. It's on Earth with Nick Fury.
Right.
There's no way that the Asgardians would give it to S.H.I.E.L.D.
No.
Yeah.
So one, they're two different things. One of my big questions was in Odin's throne room,
His treasury,
where he has all of these different relics from different worlds, and apparently they're all powerful. Because Thor says, like, if they would have gotten one of these relics, it would have been terrible. And at the center is the
casket of eternal.
I'm gonna say, and not the Infinity Gauntlet.
not the Infinity Gauntlet, not all of these incredible relics. And I felt like this casket was like not super powerful.
I know.
Yeah, well,
Like it was kind of Mr. Freeze.
That's the
ray
curse
gun.
of a long-running series.
Well, and
is that
what makes me
everything
wonder
has to
though,
escalate.
is we find out I'm not sure if this was a retcon because they recognize the problem with that, but we find out in Ragnarok that most of the artifacts are fakes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if
which I don't like, but yeah.
I kind of wonder if the casket of eternal winter is the only real thing down there. Like if everything else is just like,
See, you're always good at putting
replica.
logic to what I think are mistakes.
yeah.
But I respect you for that.
Well, it's because I do get a little
hate it.
bit of like residual back end compensation from Marvel for doing all these things. They've actually hired me to defend the integrity of their universe.
I get it.
Wow,
But that was one of the things that it didn't feel like that was a very powerful relic.
I agree.
Like it was literally Mr. Freeze ray gun that could freeze people.
Yeah,
And
it's
I feel
presented like it's the crown jewel of his treasury.
and you're like, watch this, frozen.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's the biggest thing in the 9 realms.
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, just to point out, when Heimdall's frozen, he breaks himself out of the ice later, so it can't be that powerful.
Yeah.
But
But you know, who are we? You know. So we see at the end, Odin says that their king finally fell, and it's a flashback of him with his eye ripped out from
which is
the
dope.
years of battle.
Laufey.
He's got his was it a sword or
Staff
at his throat, and he surrenders. He takes the source of their power, and now they lived in peace. You realize that he's telling this to a young Thor and a young Loki, who are both born to be kings. He says, he says, when I'm king, father, I will go to Jotunheim and I will tear them to pieces. And he says, well, a good king,
A good king does not seek out war, but is always prepared for it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to be king too. And he goes, you're both born to be kings, but only one can be on the throne
You
of
little
Asgard.
idiot. Like,
Which
that's
we
totally
know-
how that comes across to me. It's
We're like,
just like,
Loki, it's not you.
that
not
vibe
you,
is so
Loki.
weird to me of like, oh yeah, no, you're born to be a king. You won't be, but you like.
And honestly, at a young age, Loki's temperament was probably a little bit better for King.
Dude, 100%.
That kid was like, I'm going to kill them all. And you're
Guys,
like, whoa.
Would Loki have been a better, like, had this movie played out differently, would Loki have been a better king than Thor?
That's one of the things
Like
that I
if
actually
Loki
love about
hadn't got
Loki
burned.
is like Loki is such an interesting character because I do think that he is better suited for leadership than Thor is. I think that had things started out differently and Loki was the eldest rather than Thor. I think
is Thor older or are they both?
Thor's older than Loki.
I didn't realize that.
They said it in this movie. Because I was shocked by it when I heard it this time. I always thought it was either that they were the same age or the opposite, where Loki was a little older. But no, Thor is the oldest. Yeah. But I think if it was the other way around, where Loki was the oldest, that's what's so compelling about him to me. Is I do think he is almost a product of living in Thor's shadow.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which, I mean, they do address that, but I think even from a king, like, it's almost one of those things where it's like if Loki had been king instead, I think he actually would have been a pretty benevolent and wise ruler.
Yeah.
But because of growing up in Thor's shadow, he became this like trickster and this angry person.
And a seeker for attention.
Yeah, which is why later on, like, he is such a valuable ally and such a horrible opponent as well.
Yeah.
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 Let's keep talking through the plot of this movie because I can't wait until we get to grown up Loki and we can talk about Tom Hiddleston because I love him.
Well, so basically the next scene is we're at the coronation of Thor, where he's going to become king. And this is the first scene where you realize, other than him as a young kid,
that they dyed his eyebrows blonde.
Oh my goodness.
Gosh.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah. Because we need to talk about the eyebrows.
We don't need to. There's nothing to discuss. It's awful.
I'm glad that they have since said, like, okay, he can have dark eyebrows and, still have blonde hair. But this one, they were like, bleach.
But it didn't even look, it was just yellow. Like, it didn't even look
it
like.
wasn't blonde.
It's supposed to look like
real.
Like Icelandic almost, but it was
but
yellow.
I think even people who have blonde eyebrows and a blonde beard don't have yellow eyebrows and a yellow beard.
No, Scandinavian is blonde, not Gatorade
not
color.
crayon yellow. Yeah.
Not lime Gatorade.
Guys, this was almost my super dump. This was so distracting.
Really?
It was distracting.
It was very
throughout
distracting when he was getting interrogated by S.H.I.E.L.D. because that fluorescent light really brought it out. And I was like, oh.
He looks like and I think, so you mentioned earlier, like how just young.
He looks like a baby to me in this movie.
And I think part of what makes him look so young is that he really looks like he has no eyebrows at all. Mm-hmm. He just looks like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's at the coronation. That's where you get the first sense that he is a cocky D-bag.
He walks in like flipping the hammer.
Flipping the hammer.
What a
He's
chump.
winking at his mom.
Flipping the hammer sounds like a euphemism for middle finger, just FYI.
But I think he does that very well. When he winks at his mom, when he flips the hammer, when he's like waving at everybody, he does it really well. But you see, Odin is not happy with that.
No, well, and it's one of those things. I think that scene does a good job of, first of all, making us be like, too much.
Yeah.
But also being like, but he's so charming. Though. Yeah, that little wink.
Well, and let's talk about that because in this movie, I heard rumors that Anthony Hopkins thought that Chris Hemsworth was like not a good actor at all, and that he was overacting, and this was his first like big movie. And I definitely saw that.
No, I did
and
too.
I felt like I was struggling between, okay, what is this overconfident with a medieval dialect, which just sounds cheesy, and what is bad acting?
And I think a third category we can add to that is what is directing that is not suited for this type of movie. So Kenneth Branagh directed this, who is a Shakespearean director. Like, you hire Kenneth if you want that Shakespeare melodramatic, larger than life thing. And I was watching this feeling as though, because there are things in this performance that remind me a lot of Chris Hemsworth's performance in Ragnarok, where it's like he does have, like, when he plays off Natalie Portman in the car, he does have really good like comedic timing and like dialogue timing. And then we cut away from that stuff and it's just directed strangely. Yeah. Like, I feel as though he was kind of held back by the direction.
Okay, so while we're talking about this, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out my super dump since we're here already. But and I don't mind Kenneth Branagh as an actor or director.
Yeah.
I really don't. His direction in this movie is my super dump.
Yeah.
So I agree about the overacting. I think that one of the things that they got right with Thor later was they stopped being afraid to point out how dumb he sounds in the modern context.
Yeah.
And so when he started to say weird things, people's reactions to him were how I would react, which is, what?
Yeah.
Why'd you say that?
This drink, I like it.
And that's great. And that's a high point in this movie for him.
In this one.
But I think they even later on got it right with even the little things that he says, where he's like, from where I have come. And it's like, nobody talks like that, man. Like, just talk normal. And I think they became less afraid to point it out later. But for me, the most glaringly obvious, painful direction choice in this movie and this gets a little nitpicky, but it just frustrated me to no end.
That's what we do.
Is how many close-up face-only shots are in this movie with nothing for them to bounce off of with their acting. So you get these like shoulder to forehead, up close, full screen shots of Chris Hemsworth's head, Natalie Portman's head, Anthony Hopkins' head, Tom Hiddleston's head, like just these heads trying to deliver these lines where there should be reactions and things to act off. And it is so unconvincing because it's a face. It's just a face.
Speaking of strange camera choices, I want to go back and count. I want to watch this movie again and go back and count the number of Dutch angle shots. So a Dutch angle is when the camera is not perfectly horizontally level. It's tilted.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
This movie has the most Dutch angle shots I've ever seen in a movie. Like the camera is constantly tilted at about like 25 to 30 degrees.
So true.
And it is so distracting.
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes the audience feel more like they're watching a movie and not a story.
100%. It makes you feel more outside of the situation.
You don't feel like you're there.
Well, how often are you looking at things like,
or this?
Exactly. Yeah, talk to me about it again. Get right up in my face.
So I think you're right on the money. Strange directorial choices.
I found myself, especially at the fight in the New Mexico town, and they just kept being like far out shot where everybody's tiny. Boom, it's Chris Hemsworth's face, and he was just like, ah. And I was just like, oh, give me something in between these things. Give me something. Let me watch them act against each other and with each other.
I think that is probably a shared fault of the director and editor and cinematographer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Just really the people responsible for turning these actors acting into a finished product. Kind of missed the mark.
Because there's too many talented actors and actresses in this movie for it to come across as weird as it did in a lot of times. Like, I should never look at Tom Hiddleston and be anything less than jaw on the floor because he's good. And yet there were times where it was just like, his chin and forehead are both cut off because of how close they are on his face. And it was so unsettling to me watching this movie with those things.
So let's go. We're at his coronation. He's about to become king. He says, do you swear to protect Asgard from all enemies? I swear. And then as he's making him king, you kind of get this look, and the frost giants are going into his treasure room. And he says, frost giants. And he bangs his staff, and a gigantic robotic...
It's called the Destroyer.
Comes out and kills the frost giants easily. Then the next scene you have Odin, Thor, and Loki, and they're sitting in the throne or standing in the throne room amidst dead frost giants. Thor says, we got to go and we have to teach them a lesson. They know that you're weak, and I'm king now, and I'm going to show them a lesson. I'm going to, show them who's boss. Loki basically stays silent. Odin says, no, this wasn't an attack from Jotunheim. This was an attack of a few rebels who tried to break in, and they didn't get far. And he was like, they have to pay for what they did. They did pay with their lives. And Thor, next scene, is with his friends and with Loki, literally flipping tables, because he wants to attack
Weird
Jotunheim.
slow motion shot of a giant banquet table being flipped over.
That was so clearly like 4 pounds. When it hits the ground, it goes.
Anyway.
And so he says, we have to do it. If the king's not going to do it, then we have to do it. So they go rogue, and we meet Heimdall.
Heimdall rules.
Love Heimdall.
Heimdall was almost my super pump.
Really?
Yeah.
He is incredible.
I think he even gets better as the series goes on.
He does. And the thing is, he has a scene in Age of Ultron for 2 seconds, and it's one of the best scenes in the movie. But I would watch a solo movie of Heimdall.
100%.
Heimdall, Eyes of the Lord.
Especially post Ragnarok Heimdall, just like how dope he gets later on.
Gosh.
Oh man.
But so they go to Heimdall, and he says, you're going to the Frost Giants. And he was like, yes, are you going to stand in my way? And he goes, I want to know how someone slipped past my watch. So I'll send you guys there. Heimdall is basically the gatekeeper
of the Bifrost.
Which
I want to point out, we got a wonderful email from Jordan Green sharing his pumps and dumps.
Thanks, Jordan.
And he pointed out something that I'm not able to ignore at this point, is that all Bifrost scenes are instantly made better if you hum the Rainbow Road theme from Mario Kart.
Very true.
So funny. I love that. Again, thank you, Jordan.
Rainbow
Green,
Road Between Realms. If we titled our episodes, like not the movie title, that would be the title of this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the thing about definitely the Rainbow Road, more so Asgard, but they really did a good job of grounding that, making it seem real, but also making it incredible. Because the Rainbow Road is the most comic booky, like stupid thing that you would never.
Well, I mean,
put
it's
in a
even
movie.
older than that. It's like that is straight out of Norse mythology. Of like that Thor and the gods walk to the earth on rainbows.
And see, that sounds stupid.
Yeah,
and if you told me Marvel's making a movie and
they're going to include that,
the Rainbow Road, I'd be like,
Bifrost.
are you kidding me?
But they made it so cool.
They made it great.
Yeah.
So,
and I honestly think the effect for it, not showing them being like, whoa, like flying through it, is so good.
Or just like spinning like the Grinch going down.
Like the fact that they just chose to be like, and then they're there.
Yeah.
So much better because you can't take it seriously. It's
true.
When it's like,
yeah.
And with how many close-ups there were in this movie, it is honestly a wonder that is not how they showed it.
So talk us through what happens when they get to Jotunheim and negotiations. I guess
please be quick about this. I don't like this part.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
So we can speed through this part because
basically he goes to Jotunheim. Thor insults Laufey
Taufey.
And Laufey says,
"Say that, Laufey Taufey, Laufey Taufey, girl. Say that, Laufey Taufey."
Freeze.
Laufey's king of the frost giants.
Yeah, and basically says like, "Go now while I let you go." And he walks away. And does he say like, "Little princess"?
No, it's the guy behind him. He's like, "I'm back to your daddy, little princess."
I thought Laufey says
no,
it.
it's one of the guards.
It's one of the guys that was like stepping to him, and they were like,
okay.
blah, 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 blah.
Calls Thor little princess and
the most
Loki
in the weirdest Bronx accent for a frost giant.
It's true. I love when Loki goes, "Oh no!"
Yep.
Like Thor's about to go crazy. So they all fight and they defeat.
Here's what I'll say.
Countless frost
The
giants.
fighting is cool.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
will
it
pump
is.
on the fighting. I'm going to dump on the entirety of the scene, though.
We don't
it's
need
so
this.
dumb.
Yeah.
And the Rancor is literally in this. There's like the monster is just like copy paste Rancor into Thor.
It looks like a rancor.
Why does this scene not matter? Because I think this scene is pivotal to him getting banished. He went rogue. He started a war between the frost giants.
I don't think we need
peace.
any of this Asgard backstory. I think we show up on Earth and we start on Earth and the story plays out of like, this is a freaking weird guy. Is he really Thor? And we don't know if he's Thor until the warriors show up as he's fighting.
Yeah.
Like we don't
Really?
need
I
most
think
of this
that
Asgard
I
stuff.
think that we could find out even through a shorter scene. I'm accepting the structure as it is. I wish it was different, but I'm accepting it as it is. They just spend so much time getting to why he was banished, or not even why he was banished, but how. Yeah. I would prefer a quick how with a more long why, with an explanation of like, you have shown so much immaturity and so much so many unwise decisions leading up to this.
I liked seeing that. I like seeing a real depiction of his immaturity, his selfishness.
Well, and I think the reason we're so split on this is because this movie is trying to tell like a couple of different stories. Like we have the story of fish out of water Thor on Earth,
which is, in my opinion, the most compelling part of the story.
Which is what the movie should have been, I think. And we have the story of banished Thor regaining his worthiness. That
those two tie together pretty well.
Seems to tie together pretty well, but ultimately you have different villains in those stories.
Sure.
So Thor, fish out of water Thor, is Thor versus himself. Thor struggling to retain his worthiness. The story of banished Thor, the villain is Loki.
Yeah.
And then we have the story of Natalie Portman and them falling in love, which seems to integrate into the fish out of water story, but ultimately is the weakest story that we tell.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's why we can't decide if this scene belongs in the movie or doesn't belong in the movie, is because we don't know which movie we're talking about.
Sure. Let's get to Earth. That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
So
he's banished.
Odin
He goes on Earth.
shows up and rips him from his power, banishes him onto Earth.
Again, I do want to say that fight scene is very cool.
Yeah, fight scene's. I think that whole fight scene's great and very creative.
Yep.
But then he takes the hammer and says, "Whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor."
Boom.
Throws it. Weirdly doesn't go with Thor. It kind of goes like
15 miles away is what they say, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay, whatever. I guess it's pretty close in retrospect to 9 miles to Earth.
The universe.
So he lands and we go back to the scene that we started at where he gets hit with a car.
Yeah.
And again, like, I think that this is the most compelling point in the story is, who is this guy? What's he doing? I need my hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breaks out of the hospital.
Love it. I love, you get to see a little Chris Hemsworth butt cheek, which I'm super into. They shoot him with that shot. He goes down. Super good. I think the tasing of him is very funny. I wish, in my opinion, I think it's hilarious. And I wish that they had included a God of Thunder joke.
Yeah.
Right before he was tased.
Yeah.
Because it's just little electricity just takes him down.
Yeah.
Funny. That's good.
I can't help but think that later characterizations of Thor would have him say something like, I'm the God of Thunder, the storms and lightning bow to my mastery, and then he gets tased.
Yeah.
Like that. And that's what I'm saying. Like directing, like you don't let comedic beats like that have time to breathe. I do think the tasing should have been Jane. I think we fold Darcy's character into Jane, remove the annoying stuff.
Let's talk about this. You hate Darcy.
Oh my gosh, freaking Dar Binks in this movie is the least appropriate comic relief that I've seen in a movie in a long time. I cannot stand her. I think she's so annoying. I don't have 2 X chromosomes, but on behalf of all of our listeners and all of the women that I know, I am offended at Darcy. I think she is like the worst character in this movie.
I don't think she's that bad.
either.
You guys are just wrong. She's horrible.
I have seen far more like reductive stereotypes of women in far better movies. You know what I mean? Like I think that Darcy as a whole is a pretty believable character.
Why does Darcy exist in this? What does she add to the narrative?
Comic relief.
Debatable.
I think she's funny
all.
at a couple points.
Yeah.
I never laughed.
You
at
didn't
Darcy.
laugh when she called the hammer Mew Mew?
No, I didn't, because I was like, oh my gosh, she's so annoying. You didn't laugh when Jar Jar Binks got his tongue electrocuted by a pod racer? What's wrong with you, dude?
That's clearly laugh, though, is the thing.
Oh man, maybe that's why you think Darcy's funny.
I think Darcy was supposed to be the voice of the audience that breaks the mold of the superhero movie and says like, he's got abs.
Which again, we don't need that.
He's got abs.
It's.
I'm not saying whether we need it or not, or we don't.
Doge has a stick up his Jotunheine.
It feels, goodness gracious. It feels again like she's a character that exists because the movie is so afraid to take itself seriously.
See, I might agree with that.
I think she's a character that exists for the same reason
But I don't hate the character.
that Taika Waititi's character exists in Green Lantern, where it's like, you're the superhero. Don't they always get a girl? Like, she doesn't. We don't need Darcy on screen to call out, oh, Thor's got abs. Thor's pretty hot. Do we need to give Thor CPR because he's really cute? Like, we don't need that. In the same way that we don't need the movie to go, I get it. It's a rainbow bridge. I'm sorry.
I think you're thinking about your needs here and not thinking about the fact that she was getting 6 college credit hours for her work with Jane.
I just, guys, Darcy was almost my super dump.
Really?
Yeah.
I
couldn't tell.
Goodness gracious. I cannot. And I mean, this is probably the first strong opinion we've put down, we've put into the tape of our recordings. Ever. Yeah. We typically don't have strong opinions at all.
No.
But I'm going to go on record and say Darcy is the worst part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
No.
Whoa.
I would rather watch a Malekith the Dark Elf solo movie than see Darcy in another scene in this franchise.
You're crazy, man. You're out of your mind.
I mean, I think,
doesn't bother me.
I think me and Jordan are on the same page in the sense of like, we're not like Darcy.
Yeah.
Darcy.
If
However,
she never shows up again, I'm fine. But she
So
doesn't.
tell me more about why
bother
you guys
me.
are Team Darcy and I'm Team Jane.
because we have respect for women. Oh,
I'm barely Team Jane though. Is the thing.
Yeah, so let's talk
Yeah.
about Natalie Portman in this
Yeah.
movie.
I feel like she really had nothing to do.
She didn't.
I think Jane is a compelling character when Thor is not on the screen. And then as soon as Thor's in the picture, she just is falling to pieces over him and
Yeah,
like
I didn't
demonstrates no real reason for there to be attraction.
Well, I was about to say, let's be very clear though. If he came up to me and kissed my hand, 100%. Okay, sure.
That is my super dump for this movie.
Really?
How reductive the character of that is. Like she feels like she honestly, I don't even know how to articulate it. It's so disappointing to me to see that she's such a strong character and has goals and has things that she wants to accomplish.
Until Thor's on the
And
screen.
then as soon as Thor's on the screen, all that forgets and all she wants to do is be a wife to Thor.
No, I think she wants to use Thor to find answers.
I think so. I think that's what it should be.
I think that's what they're trying to tell us, but I don't know if it was the directing. I don't know if it was maybe a revision in the script. Like she should have been exactly what you said, using Thor to find answers, but instead she's just like falling to pieces and worshiping him.
The problem is that he makes her horny.
Did you say thorny?
So horny.
Oh, that's funny.
Thor. Yeah, anyway.
It's true, but I think that's good because she says we don't know what that was. Let's talk to the person that came out of it.
Yeah,
because they see his shadow was in that tornado.
Again,
Yeah,
it
the
really
tornado.
felt like they couldn't decide between like. So should Jane like have a reason to be in this movie, or should she just fall in love with him? And they're like, let's do both.
Yeah, don't you want them to do both? Would you rather her like have no attraction to Thor?
I would rather it not come up in this movie.
Yeah.
I think I would rather her have the attraction but not do anything about it, considering, again, they know each other and are on the same plane of existence for roughly 72 hours.
My ideal version of this story is almost more of a fish out of water romantic comedy where Thor gets to know humanity through Jane.
And I can get that.
So it's Tarzan.
With the story that we're given, to me, it would be far more compelling if his whole motivation was getting back his hammer. That was it. Her whole motivation was getting answers, and somehow through that, they still ended up.
I feel like we got that.
I don't know, man.
I don't feel that we did.
I do.
I feel like there was a romance shoehorned in rather than naturally developing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Again, 72 hours, like I don't know if I can develop enough feelings to like anything in 72 hours.
Okay, but imagine
Except
that
maybe Chris
that
Hemsworth.
person-
It took
Chris
me a
Hemsworth.
full-
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
It
about.
took me a full week to decide if I liked Star Wars The Last Jedi. I couldn't decide that I'm in love with somebody after 72 hours.
But I don't know if they would say they're in love.
David.
I think they
I mean,
would.
I think they might
Because
use those words. I might use those
Jane's
words.
whole reason, she continues her research at the end of this movie. Her whole reason for doing so
Bring
is to
him
see
back.
Thor again.
Yeah.
I'd want to do anything I could to see
And
Thor
he keeps
again.
going off and staring into the distance, and he said he misses her.
He misses her. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like they don't demonstrate any sort of connection.
I'm just not there, you guys.
Why does Thor love Jane more than he loves Lady Sif, his childhood best friend who has the same
That's a good question.
the same cultural values that he does?
And she clearly is crushing on
She's
that
clearly
Chris.
into him. Yeah.
true.
She
See,
spends
that's
the
a-
whole movie just like,
That's the
Thor.
best point you've made about the whole Jane situation so far.
Well, it's Doge, but thanks. I'll take the credit for it.
I meant you guys as a team.
We'll share it.
As chunks.
We'll share it.
Well, so the hammer is basically locked in the ground.
Yeah.
Only someone who's worthy can pick it up. I love the scene where everyone from the town is trying
Oh my
to pick
gosh,
it up.
dude.
That's so great.
Because that is
Huge
exactly
pump
what would
from
happen.
Me. Huge pump from me.
And Stan Lee's cameo is the guy
Yeah.
whose truck
Short and
gets
sweet.
broken.
It's
Yep.
perfect.
It's great.
And it rips off the entire bed of his truck.
Yep.
So funny.
And then he said, like, did I get it?
Yep.
Did I get it?
Oh,
Yeah.
and like all the guys like grilling hot dogs and just drinking beer around it. It's perfect. Like that's
Yep.
exactly. And if I lived out there, you bet I'd be out there.
Oh, yeah. Just strong man challenge. And Thor hears about it and says, we got to go to it. But they said the government's taking it all over.
Yep.
And this is where we really see S.H.I.E.L.D. has the biggest part of any MCU movie
So
to this
far.
point.
Yeah, I
and we
agree.
catch up to the end credit scene from Iron Man 2, where
Yep.
Coulson finds the hammer and then they build the shield complex around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so S.H.I.E.L.D.'s almost portrayed as a bad guy or as a villain for a lot of this movie. Like
I think
yeah.
through Thor's misunderstanding,
For sure.
which is cool.
and they're both misunderstanding each other.
Yeah.
But to us, the main character is Thor, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is in opposition.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
stealing Jane's research. They're guarding the hammer. They're sending men to,
So that's
capture Thor.
another unclear line of conflict in
Yeah,
this movie.
I guess you could say that.
Are we talking about the scene where Thor is like going to
About
get
to
the
break
hammer?
in.
So let me go ahead and just hit this. Not my super pump necessarily, but a huge pump for me is the introduction. Good grief, of Hawkeye.
I forgot he was in this because he has so little place in this narrative.
As the
I think
MCU
it was just supposed to be a cameo.
has grown, Hawkeye has become one of my favorite returning like team members.
Yeah.
I love
he's
him.
great.
I love Jeremy Renner. I think he is perfect.
Yeah.
And so this quick introduction of him, mostly because of what I know Hawkeye turns into for the team,
Yeah.
but also just because of how cool he is in this scene of just like, oh, here's a billion guns. Let me grab this bow and arrow
Yeah.
and just up on this crane. I don't know. I loved it. I remember even the
I
first
think
time
we
being
should.
like, who's that guy?
It's Hawkeye. I think if there was some sort of demonstration of his proficiency,
Yeah.
it would be.
Yeah,
he
I
would.
can
It
see
would
that.
feel more like he had a place in this narrative. As of right now, it feels like it kind of. His presence in this movie almost feels like Wonder Woman watching Justice League trailers and Batman versus
100%.
Superman.
It's a
Yeah.
Zack Snyder-esque
Yeah.
Easter egg where it's just like, see that guy?
And here's where I love the line where he says, like, you want me to fire? Because I'm starting to root for this guy.
Yep.
Total Hawkeye.
Characterizes
What I
him
think
well,
he should have done is said, okay, detain him. And he fires 10 arrows and locks like Thor's shirt to a wall. And you see the proficiency of how good he is.
Yep.
That would be my fix for that. Because I do like that. It's just a cameo. Me
too.
Like, let's get on with the
And
Thor.
I love that line that you just brought up.
So-
I think it's the perfect, like, he's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Imagine-
Hawkeye is a witty, just like kind of jerk at times, but
a lot of the times he's playing the straight man for the audience to relate to. We'll get into that later.
Imagine in the director's cut of this movie when Jane tases Thor at the beginning and Thor says, "Thunder and lightning, bow to my mastery," and then he gets zapped by lightning. Yeah. Imagine if we have another moment here where Hawkeye shoots him with an electric arrow and he goes down, like a tased arrow, and he goes down. It becomes a 3-beat at that point. We establish that lightning can hurt him. We reinforce the lightning can hurt him. And then in the end, when he gets his power back and he controls lightning, we subvert our lightning expectations. Or
someone else tries to electrocute him and instead it makes him stronger.
Yeah.
Or hear me out. When Hawkeye shoots him with this electric arrow that we're making up, he goes down to his knees and he looks straight into the camera and goes, "Zap, ouchie," and then falls backwards. It would be awesome.
Well, I forgot to say that. Yeah, but that's obviously, I mean, you can't have that scene without that moment.
Or he just goes, and then falls. It'd be so sick.
Yeah.
So he gets, so he basically gets into the center of that gigantic tent and starts to pull on the hammer, hoping that it's going to have his power again.
Can I pump on the way that whole setup looks? It's the coolest looking like government pop-up operation I've seen in a movie.
It is good.
It's like,
and Coulson says, I want to see this.
Yeah. I want to see this. I love.
And he realizes he can't do it, so S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in, detains him, takes him down, puts him in a side room. Meanwhile, Loki is going into the treasury room because in the fight scene at Jotunheim, a frost giant touched his arm and it went blue. But we saw frost giant touch somebody else's arm and it burned them. So he realized something was different.
This culminates in the reveal that Loki is half frost giant. He's Laufey's son that Odin adopted after the war.
Huge dump on this for me.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Big dump.
There's no reason for this. It never comes back once later.
Yeah, it's true.
It's used in this movie and then they just throw it to the wind.
It's abandoned.
It has no purpose.
I like it in this movie.
Why?
Because I think you need to have, or not need to have, but what they did is they made Loki torn between not only, Thor is the one that's favored and I'm not, but now he says I'm a part of a different race. I'm a part of a different culture, but I've been raised in this culture. So I'm born to be a king. I know that. Do I have allegiance to Asgard or do I go and be a king?
I would argue that you don't need that.
I think you do need that if his allegiance becomes frost giants at the end.
Yeah, if it affects anything.
So this exists to trick the audience. Whenever he invites the frost giants in at the end of the movie and then double crosses them to make it look like he saved Odin's life, that is the culmination of this reveal that he's half frost giant. This element only exists to make the audience believe that he's siding with the frost giants. Yeah. I think since he ends up siding with Asgard, let's just have him feel snubbed by Asgard.
But I don't think so because when he invites them to Asgard and says you can kill Odin, he says so I can be king.
Yeah.
Of Asgard.
Yeah.
So he's chosen Asgard.
Yeah.
But then you realize he double crossed them so that he would get the praise of Asgard for these people that broke in.
Tell me where in this does he have to be part frost giant for that to work?
That's a good point.
Because there's no purpose.
Well, and here's the thing. He did not know that he was part frost giant, and they don't, that's not necessary for them to believe him and trust him because he didn't know that he was part frost giant.
And he never reveals it to them.
Neither did they at the beginning of the movie when he let the frost giants into Asgard the first time.
That's a good point.
It doesn't affect anything. He's not like, I'm one of you, so trust me. Yeah. It never comes back.
So during this scene, whenever he's yelling at Odin and he finds all this stuff out, Odin falls into the Odin sleep.
Yeah.
Just happens to fall into the Odin sleep while he is arguing with Loki. I thought
it was like a stress-induced Odin sleep kind of a situation.
And they said that he's been putting it off for so long that it just caught up with him.
It doesn't seem to be caused by anything Loki's doing. I didn't read it as a stress-induced one. Even if it is, that just works out. So Loki is presented to us as somebody who has this huge master plan. But as we watch this movie, we realize Loki doesn't have a huge master plan. He just is very quick on his feet.
Yeah.
Well, which I really like. I mean, it's cool to show.
That's kind of his thing. Tricky trickster.
Cool to show a character.
Cool to go.
Yeah. Cool to show a character with great competence in that area.
Yeah.
But he is the antagonist of our B plot.
Yeah.
The most interesting character in this movie is a side antagonist.
Yeah. That's a great point.
That is a really good point. And I'll take this opportunity to say, Loki is my super pump.
Loki is my super pump as well. Super duper pump. Jordan?
Unfortunately, I have to say that Loki is my super pump.
Super duper pump.
Of course. I mean,
he's the best part of this movie.
How can he not? I mean, who's watching this movie and being like, that Loki guy, get rid of him? What?
And in that scene where he realizes he is a frost giant, regardless of whether that should have been in there or not, when he says, tell me.
Tell me.
Yeah. See that yell?
He's like marching forward.
Oh my gosh, that yell seemed to be the epitome of the bad directing to me. That moment when he yells, "Tell me," I was just
Shut
like,
up.
No, I think that's great.
That's the best.
I really don't like that moment.
I think it's great.
He has 2 lines where he says, "Tell me," or when he says, "Is it? Is it?" Where I was like, "This dude can act."
I buy it more on the second. Is it? I think if I were directing this movie, I would have told him, instead of screaming, "Tell me," bring it down. He's not angry at this point. He's terrified.
Nope, I love it. That's my favorite.
I agree. I love the yell. I love the like slow march forward to dad of just like, why didn't you tell me? Like, what's this all about? You hate me. Like, you just took me as a trophy. I love that.
And again, it does, I guess you could say he doesn't need to be a frost giant, but he says like, that's why you always favorite Thor, because you couldn't have a frost giant on the throne of Asgard.
Yep.
So it brought more reality to the fact that he's not just the younger.
Okay, I'm still going to disagree with you on that because I think that whole plot line's really. I'm like with you on the like liking it, but that part's done. So like, don't rope me into that.
Also, we're in this together. We're for sure.
Really lucky that Odin happened to grab like a runt frost giant that grew up to be roughly the same size as a human.
Yeah,
what if Loki was growing and grew up to be like 11 feet tall like the frost giant?
So in the way that Loki turns blue when a frost giant touches him, does that mean that humans' touch turns him regular? So if he touches a turtle, is he green? Like, is he a chameleon?
That was one thing they didn't understand. Like, why when
that's
Odin,
the only part of it you didn't get?
Well, it was the one part that wasn't logical in their world.
It's just technology we don't understand yet, David.
Maybe it was, but when Odin grabs the baby and the baby turns human, I was like, wait.
Here's what could make this okay, and then I'm done talking about Loki being a frost giant because we still have to get through the final battle and all that stuff. What they could do for me that would be okay with this as sort of a retcon is to later at some point find out that Loki was not part frost giant, but that his illusion magic was already working at such a young age that he had maybe been taken by the frost giants and used that to blend in and seem normal. I could see that.
I just wish they'd not included this because that's additional.
I completely agree.
That's additional information that we've got to carry as the audience.
I completely agree, but to me, that is a way that they could write this off as still plot sensitive, but not as dumb as it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so Loki goes to Thor, who's chained up in the shield facility, and says, "I'm king now, and I can't bring you back.
Odin's dead.
This is the final goodbye." So Thor's going to stay on Earth.
Yep.
My super dump is when Eric Selvig comes and says, "Steroids. He's a nut. He's a great scientist. Let him go."
Junkie.
And they let him go. Why would they do that?
I didn't have a problem with that.
It comes up like when they call his ID up. It comes up as says warning, falsified information. So Coulson knows he's Thor.
I think Coulson's following a hunch.
They let him go, so they're like, we're just going to follow him because he's going with.
And they followed him to this battle of El Paso.
Well, they've already taken.
They've already taken.
At that point, they have already taken all the stuff, haven't they?
But she's the lead, like the most qualified person about these about the Bifrost, essentially. So they're obviously letting him go back to her. So that she can continue her work.
And I think they saw that he couldn't get the hammer and was brought down by like mortal people. So I think that their thought process was probably he's probably dangerous, but he's less dangerous than he would be with the hammer. So we're gonna let him go and see if we can follow any. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, and that also doesn't make sense. There's a scene. I don't know if it was in the movie or in the. I think it was in the trailer, but he was like, "You made a bunch of my men who are highly trained Navy SEALs," and he's like, "And you made them look like a bunch of Boy Scouts." So. It clearly his thought process isn't like, well, he's not super dangerous. Like, no, he just told him like, you're super. He was like, what do you?
I think what we're supposed to believe
sent
is
you
that
Iraq.
When they see, because there's a beat when they see the falsified information, Coulson appears to like mull it over and then let him go. I think we're to assume that Coulson wants to follow.
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. I didn't see it, and I didn't see the follow through. I didn't see the follow through of it.
I see that. But
so then we have the Battle of El Paso, where Thor realizes he's on Earth.
Albuquerque, or not Albuquerque?
It's just New Mexico.
Puerto something in New Mexico.
Puerto something in New Mexico.
And that looks like the biggest just set design of a 1950s cowboy movie. Like everything seemed fake in that town.
Yeah.
Especially in that battle scene.
It felt like a Paramount backlot or like a Disney town in like Old West Village and Six Flags or something.
Old West World, yeah.
But
or not Old West World. That would be more problematic.
The town bothers me less than I hate the Destroyer. I'm just gonna
I hate the Destroyer too.
There's no point.
Yeah.
Why is he the most powerful thing?
Loved the joke about is this one of Tony Stark's.
Love it.
I think it's so great when it first appears.
Well, he's like, this one's one of Stark's. I got it.
He's like, hey, you can't be here, man. Like that kind of thing. And then lasers. He's like, nope, not Stark.
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
That joke is funny.
I hate that the laser comes out of the Destroyer's face.
The whole face.
The entire face.
And also, apparently, Loki is controlling it psychically through the face, but isn't in it. I hate it. I hate the Destroyer.
The one thing I like about this sequence is Thor's genuine apology to his brother. Like he walked up to the Destroyer apologizing, saying, I've been arrogant, I've been reckless, and owning his mistakes.
And then says, kill me. Which, okay, what is Thor's sin that causes unworthiness? Like what makes him get banished? I assumed that it was selfishness in his actions, probably.
Selfishness and immaturity.
Okay. Would you say that it's a lack of bravery? Because I wouldn't. I think Thor is plenty brave, like brave to a fault.
It's not a weakness of his.
Then why is it his bravery?
It's not. I think it's his selflessness.
It's his selflessness.
I think it's him saying kill me because
them.
I'm who you want. So just go ahead and kill me and leave them alone.
Yeah.
Like you're not here to kill them. You're here to kill me. So just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it.
It just feels like there's a bit of a mismatch between like there's not a clear like this is what he did wrong, and so to rectify it, he does this to be worthy. You know what I mean?
Because they chose to have that moment with a faceless, voiceless antagonist in the middle of a town square.
Yeah.
Instead of somebody that could communicate back to him. Loki heard him but didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So he's just fighting with this giant metal suit of armor.
And it was a proposed sacrifice, not an actual sacrifice.
Yeah.
I think he should have actually because he literally said kill me, and then Loki was like,
hate that. Hate the turnaround slap. But I think we're supposed to interpret that in his mortal body, the slap basically killed him and he was on his way to death.
He did. But again, to me, that's a proposed sacrifice. And then he's like, fine, I'll backhand you, kill you. When in reality, I think it would have been more powerful if it was almost something more like Man of Steel, where he's about to kill, maybe not one family, but a ton of people, and Thor takes it and sacrifices himself and then gets resurrected by the power of Mjolnir.
So anyway, through some circumstance that is not really clear in the movie, Thor regains his worthiness, gets Mjolnir back, destroys the Destroyer.
Once he gets the hammer back, I do like that scene. Like that end of that scene when he just spends roughly 30 seconds tearing it to pieces and then it's done.
That whole fight scene with the Destroyer was almost my super dump because I completely lost interest.
We don't need it.
We don't need
that's
that
the thing.
Well, I think that's why I like it when the hammer comes back because it's almost over. There's like 30 seconds left. He hits it a couple times and then takes it up.
We need to see the fight with him and Loki. We don't need to see it with him and the Destroyer.
Completely agreed.
Yeah. So Act 3 is over. Our internal conflict of Thor's unworthiness is resolved. Now we get to move to Act 4, the external conflict and the end of our B plot, which is Loki's plan to take over Asgard. So we get back to Asgard. Talk us through what happens.
Well, and this is the best fight scene in the movie for me because we've always talked about superhero fight scenes at the end of the movie. They can't just be punch, but there has to be a story behind it, and there was a big story behind it.
Yes.
You understood Thor's reasoning for not mistrusting Loki and saying to his mom, tell her what you did, that you manipulated the entire system, that you've been a lying king, that you've
not a lion king, a lying king,
a lying king, and you understand why Loki wants to kill Thor because basically he knows.
Yeah.
So like I loved this fight scene.
Yeah, and you understand the consequence if our hero fails, which I think is important.
Yes, that's a great point. And basically the end of the fight scene, I'll pump on one part of the fight scene, which I love that they used, which is he puts the hammer on Loki's chest.
So good.
That was great.
And he can't move.
I love that.
So Loki's plan is to destroy Jotunheim by just opening the Bifrost on it and letting it consume the planet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Thor defeats him by breaking the Bifrost and cutting himself off from Jane. How do we
sacrifice
feel about
number
that?
2, I guess. Again, I don't really care because him and Jane have known each other for 72 hours. So I don't know why I'm supposed to care that.
This is supposed to be a big emotional moment, and it completely fell flat for me.
And I think us knowing that, not for me. I think us knowing that Avengers was coming up, because at that point that was clearly what they were heading towards. It was like, well, he's going to go back.
Especially with this post-credit scene.
He's going to go back to Earth. So physical separation is not nearly as compelling as like a death or something, or like a breakup or something. Like I'd rather have some sort of emotional disconnect than a physical disconnect. I think that's more compelling when theoretically Thor could just hammer fly through space until he got back to Earth.
I think there's a version of this movie that exists in the back of my mind where Thor doesn't go to Earth at all, where it's just all on Asgard and we get rid of all the unnecessary. I haven't fleshed out that idea, but I think there's a way you could make this work without having to introduce all of the Earth stuff.
See, I don't love Asgard that much. I think Earth is the most compelling part of the story.
Then we need to change Loki into the villain of the Earth plot.
I agree.
So that Tom Hiddleston has a reason to be in this movie.
I agree.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, making this a romantic movie, I bought into it. But when he's destroying the Bifrost, therefore never gonna, because that's what Loki screams out, you're never gonna see her again. I wish I thought that was true. If this was a standalone movie and I realized this is the end and he's not going back to Earth, this is a sacrifice he's making to save the Frost Giants, who are evil, maybe not all of them, but for the most part, he's going to save them and sacrifice his own love. But I never bought that.
Yeah.
I don't buy that he learns the value of the lives of Frost Giants he doesn't know by spending a long weekend with an astrophysicist on Earth.
Completely agreed.
So Thor destroys the Bifrost, never going to see Jane again.
Yep.
And Thor basically tries to apologize or Loki, they both exchange words. Loki says, I'm not worthy of this, and basically rolls off the broken Bifrost to his death. Thor catches him. Odin catches Thor. They're hanging
I didn't care for this element.
Monkeys in a barrel. And Loki says, I'm going to
fly, you fools.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
I would way have rather than the human chain where they all catch each other like the monkeys in a barrel, like you said. Loki rolls over, Thor goes to look for him, and Loki's gone.
Yep.
Way better. And even then, we don't have the weird effect of Tom Hiddleston like shrinking into a vortex.
We wouldn't know where he went.
Yeah, we would have no idea.
Again, I hate the effect in anything, especially when it's Tom Hiddleston. Bink! Like, you know what I mean?
Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks no better than when Luke falls down the shaft in The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, but there's only about 40 years separating those two.
I know, that's the crazy thing.
Well, and so Loki is presumed dead.
Yeah.
Later, Thor has a conversation with his dad, Odin, where he basically says, I'm not ready to be king. Like, I've realized that now. I have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And then Odin again says, you're right, you're not king.
And I take from you your power. He's like, no,
not a kid. Wank, wank, wank. And a black circle closes on Thor's face. Yep.
But they talk about Loki's death. And this is a big dump for me in the MCU, which is there's not a ton of problems with the MCU. It's obviously incredible. But one of the things that they've done multiple times, which we'll get to, is they kill off characters, lead us to believe they're dead, and they come back.
I'm just kidding.
They do that. And what it is actually doing is it is putting distrust.
It cheapens death.
Whoa. Yeah, it cheapens every death.
Well, and here's the thing. If I see a death in the MCU, I don't buy it. I'm like,
that's
they're
why
probably
that's
coming
why
back.
nobody believes Quicksilver's really dead.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Age of Ultron.
Yeah, and that's why there was a rumor that they shot a scene with him at the end when they said Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
They shot a scene where he was in it. So they were thinking like, is he really going to die or did he just take a ton of bullets and he'll come back somehow?
I don't know. When he comes back, we will not have seen that coming.
Yeah.
That's why, and this is just, kind of a Babe Ruth calling a shot, even though I didn't make these movies. But that's why I really think we're coming up on something huge that is going to permanently kill off one or multiple huge characters in this franchise.
And I think, like you said, it would be more powerful if a ton of other characters didn't die and then weren't dead.
But I think that will be the intention. I think the intention will be to prove like we're not playing around. Like it's there.
This person's really dead.
I'm in for it. I still think it cheapens it a little bit.
I think so too. No, I mean it's that's irreversible. Yeah. The fact that they've already done the damage with like killing off too many people and then changing their minds. But I will say, at least in Thor, it was immediately revealed that he was not dead.
It's true. That's a great point.
So speaking of future movies, we get our post-credits scene, which teases the Avengers. Dr. Selvig shows up at a SHIELD facility. Nick Fury has a briefcase, opens it to reveal a glowing tube, which looks too much like the casket of Eternal Winters and confuses the audience.
Mini frost giant.
Yeah. And so then Fury says, we would love you to take a look at this. And then Selvig, influenced by an invisible Loki, says, I think it's worth a look. And then cut to black.
Okay, call me crazy. I think it would have been better if it was Loki as Selvig and not Selvig being influenced by Loki. I think it would just be better if he was like, okay, see you later, and then walked down the hall, and then it was Loki all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Did they establish that Loki could do that in this movie?
I've never seen that.
Because
I don't think we've seen it since.
He did it in Thor Ragnarok. He was Odin. Remember?
Yeah.
and then he completely
that's true.
changes, and then he was Captain America for that scene.
Sorry, let me back that up.
Yeah.
Yes, they've established that he
can shapeshift.
They haven't shown it or necessarily said that, but they
he just becomes intangible for that minute when the frost giant like dives through him at the beginning in the fight
so he projects himself out.
I knew that, but then they later made it possible for him to.
Oh, he totally does.
Shapeshift.
I thought you meant have they established that he can stand invisibly next to somebody and be like,
But I think I'm with
minds.
you. He should have been Selvig and then shapeshifted out of himself, but I don't think they decided that he could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we'd have to rework Avengers because they need to be separate characters in that movie.
What do you
Who
mean?
does?
Selvig and Loki.
Yeah.
No, I think we established that they are separate characters.
He's
I'm saying
Selvig is
because
huge in the Tesseract.
Selvig, this like real Selvig can't not be involved with the Tesseract. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. I'm with you now.
Yeah.
Okay. I got what you're saying.
Anyway, that's this movie. We've exhausted it.
Yeah.
We've said the things that we say about movies.
All in all, a pretty disappointing post-credit scene, by the way.
Yeah.
They didn't even explain what, like, there was no, like, hey, by the way, this is something called the Tesseract and it's going to be huge. It was just like, here's a glowing blue thing that's probably the same thing we just did.
Yep.
It would have, even if Fury was like, we're working on a team to handle this thing, but they need to know what it is. There you go. We know it's the Avengers now.
Yeah.
Like, we know that that's something. But
Did he say something about, like, try and get word back to Thor or anything like that? I don't remember.
No,
Yeah,
he
it doesn't
didn't.
make sense to me.
It should have been Robert Downey Jr. just saying, like, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
And we would have been like, it's
him again. I love it.
Yeah. Or if Fury was like, we need your help with two things. One is this cube. Two, we think we might need your friend.
Three, maybe tell Jane to get a better intern.
Yeah.
But it's that time, right?
It is.
time.
It's that rating time.
It's 8 o'clock.
time.
So, well, we here at Two Chunks and a Hunk have come up with our own perfect rating system. It's the scientific cinema scale. We're super excited about it, trying to get a patent locked down, so don't steal our IP, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, we're going to read that out to you right now, and then we're going to rate this movie. So here we go. The best thing that we could possibly say about any movie we watch is own it, don't lend it, buy that poster. The next best thing that we could say, just buy it, you know? Have it in your home permanently. The next best thing that we could say is rent it digitally or otherwise. If like Family Video is still around you, don't own it necessarily, but drop a couple bucks. It's worth it. The next best thing that we could say about a movie is to stream it. Don't necessarily spend extra money on it, but if it's available on a streaming service, go for it. Right after that, the next best thing, or the second worst thing that we can say about a movie is forget it. What that means is that overall you're better off if you just kind of forgot this movie existed. And then last, and certainly least, the worst thing that we could ever say about a movie.
God hath forsaken us.
Yeah, no, I knew that was coming up. I knew that was coming. But anyway, that's our scale. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
This movie is an easy stream it for me.
Okay.
Don't pay money for this movie. I would say forget it if the Avengers wasn't essentially an Iron Man sequel set in the Thor universe.
Yep.
Like, if we didn't need to know who Loki was for the Avengers, I would say forget this movie.
And Thor escalated everything to get to Avengers. Just the idea of Thor.
Yeah, I think honestly, that's just about what I was going to say, but I think better put probably.
You were going to say it better than I did?
No, you better.
That's a little presumptuous, Jordan.
You put it better than I was going to.
It's a little presumptuous, Thornton.
Okay. It's I'm going to give it a stream it with a teeter-totter towards forget it, but stream it just because of how integral it suddenly becomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well, I will give it a stream it. We just super duper streamed this movie.
Streamer D-Deemer.
I think you said it. I wouldn't necessarily rent it, but if it was on Netflix and someone hadn't seen it, I'd be like, let's watch it. It's good. You need to know the character Thor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, I think we pretty much have exhausted this. I don't know. Do either of you have anything you want to close out with?
I haven't said.
No, I've said every single word that I know.
I think so
except
too.
the fact that the hammer looks dope.
The hammer does look cool.
Well, before we finish and sign off for this episode, we do want to give a couple of shout outs. We want to shout out, first of all, Jordan Green once again for emailing us his pumps and dumps. That's super awesome. So if you're a listener, please do that because we love that. And we might even read something off and give you some credit on the show.
That is 2chunksandahunk@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Also, be super rad if you guys want to start sending synopses, plot summaries, like a 3-sentence summary.
Yeah.
We'd love to read some of those out.
Yeah, that would be great. So
Yeah.
please do that. But Jordan Green, thank you for that. And then we also want to give a shout out to Alden De Armas and Colton Kingston for shouting us out. #OfficialChunky on social media. Don't forget, if you want to get a shout out on an episode, #OfficialChunky. Talk about the show. Tell people to watch it. Spread the good news.
Yeah.
The good tidings that we bring of movie madness. We're trying to get people to listen to what we have to say because, well, it's not really important, is it?
I don't think so. If you like what we're doing, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, like videos, leave a 5-star rating on iTunes, text us and tell us we're doing a good job.
Send it to your mom.
Send us letters. Just tell us you're proud of us.
Hey, moms love us. Like,
introduce us. Introduce us to your mom.
Introduce us to your parents. I know that it's a little early, but I think this is going somewhere.
Our relationship. I mean, we've known each other longer than Thor and Jane have, and they're clearly in love.
If you want to bring us home, I promise your parents are going to love us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're really good with parents.
Yep.
So anyway,
older brothers, maybe not so much.
You keep them at home.
Yeah. Don't.
For 2 chunks and a hunk. I'm Jordan. I'm David. And I'm Doge. Thanks for tuning in.
That's not us.
Well, the episode's over, but since you're still hanging out here, why don't we toss some information your way?
If you want to be the first to know when we drop new content, like us on Facebook at 2 Chunks and a Hunk. Subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want a shout out on our next podcast, then #OfficialChunky.
Yeah.
That's CHUNKY.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're done here, but I guess if you want to stay, I mean, we can just
keep hanging out.
What was your favorite part of that movie that we just saw? Did you like it?
I bet they did.